everyone. Hi, I'm Astha, and we, the family of the Insane Analyst, welcomes you to our channel. In this episode of the Canvas series, we are going to talk about the most sensational and talked about topic of the financial market, which is the cryptocurrency. You all must have seen that the month of May made headlines in almost every newspaper and news channel, especially the financial ones. But for what? For the major turbulence that occurred in the crypto market, especially the big dip that happened with the values of most of the cryptocurrencies in the world. But this entire episode did one thing in disguise. It increased the curiosity of people like you and me in the crypto market. People want to know more about it. Like, what is cryptocurrency? How does it work? And what is the possible future of it? To discuss everything, we have here with us today an expert from the same field. Let me introduce you to Mrs. Ankita Avasthi. She is a financial analyst working in the financial service sector for a long time. Plus, she is an expert in cryptocurrencies and the blockchain network. Also, Mrs. Ankita Avasthi is the co-founder of InvestorCon Market Intelligence. She has an experience of working with JP Morgan. Plus, she is the president of Lucknow District Women Entrepreneurship and Empowerment for CIM SME. She is a very renowned financial analyst and keeps updating about the crypto market. So if you want to stay updated, do follow her on various platforms. We are sharing her details in the description below. So first of all, a very warm welcome to you, ma'am. We are very glad to have you here on board with us today.
Thank you, Astha, and thank you to the team of Insight Analysts. And, it's wonderful to actually touch base and have an opportunity to explain about this amazing field, which is so different and it is so new that people are actually a little scared and yet excited. So everybody wants to know what it is. Everybody wants to dip their toes in it, but they are really unsure of, what and how to get started. So I think your initiative with your website and doing these videos will certainly help a lot of retail investors to come forward and get a little braver in terms of investing in cryptocurrency. So I hope to give a very basic overview of what is cryptocurrencies and specifically starting with Bitcoin. So yeah, I think we can get started.
First of all, thank you so much, ma'am. Like, you are here with us on our channel, especially in these difficult times of COVID-19. And just out of curiosity, I want to know, what did you do in the lockdown last year? How did you spend your time? What new things and activities did you learn, and how you took care of your health?
Okay. So I think, like most of us, initially, it was a bit enjoyable till the time, things didn't start affecting you till you are not a victim of COVID. It's okay for you. And of course, a lot of things have been happening around. So initially, you just try to focus your mind on your work. And thankfully, my work is completely remote. So for me, it was like BAU, business as usual, going on. And, of course, there have been a lot of up and downs in terms of client coming in, going. But I think that's the economy in general. And if you have a job right now, you are very lucky. You should thank your stars. If your family is healthy, you should thank your stars. And, I think you can't expect more than that in the current state of affairs. So I think the important thing was that, we just tried to come up with new ideas in our own line of work and touch base with people whom we were missing out on talking to, things like that. So you just catch up with the things that you weren't getting the time to do earlier. Then, of course, a lot of, as this year's lockdown started and this year's COVID-19 came with full force, it came with complete, unexpected force. And a lot of people, including myself, I was also down for some time. And so I think all of us had gone through those health issues, family issues. And but I think life has to go on. And let's hope that, things like these and initiatives like these actually help us come back with a little bit of more hope to reality. And, we can find the strength to move on. So yeah, so
yes, ma'am, life goes on. This is the only mantra we are following right now in these difficult times. And the year 2020 and 2021 was very difficult, not only for India, but for the entire world. And it has also been very important for the crypto market as well, especially the month of May, because there was a very major dip in the values of most of the cryptocurrencies that occurred. And it increased a lot of curiosity and interest of people in the crypto market. Like people want to know more about it right now. And also there's a lot of buzz around that whether one should invest in cryptocurrencies or not, because of course no one wants to miss out the golden opportunity to invest into something that can give them very good returns. But at the same time, investing into something at this time like this can erode their savings as well. And investing without proper knowledge and background is a zero-sum game. So my first question to you is, what is exactly cryptocurrencies and how do you explain it to a beginner?
Okay, so before I come to what is cryptocurrency, I'll just explain, that why suddenly cryptocurrency has come in the buzz. Because as you rightly said, as a major dip happened on May of 23rd,
Yes.
23rd May. And what happened was all cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin and Ethereum, fell like 15 to 20% below their market prices. And the initial, so everybody was like, oh God, okay, what's happening? And the interesting part is, I think, to put it very lightly, it was a result of too much idle time in terms of with Elon Musk. So I will just say Elon Musk, didn't have much to do during his lockdown period. I'll just say that, because he was tweeting in terms of, how Bitcoin can suddenly move up or move down. And I think it was a very good test for the market for cryptocurrencies to see how one person's, endorsement can influence the value of these currencies. So I think that kind of is a scary aspect, and that kind of made the cryptocurrency world look very, very, non-serious. It made it look like, I came across a lot of people on LinkedIn, many analysts making jokes of cryptocurrencies that, okay, tomorrow if Elon Musk says XYZ, the value of that thing is going to go up. So like he was doing the same with Dogecoin. So Dogecoin, I'm sure people who have read a little bit will understand. So that's a cryptocurrency which Elon Musk was endorsing, and it went up in value drastically. And then it fell also drastically. So during the same period, during the same year, within the span of 1 year, as much as returns it was giving, it came down drastically just by one tweet. So, it makes you think, what is cryptocurrencies all about? Is it just shosha? Is it just hype? So let me begin with what is the origin of cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrencies is mainly a digital money, if you can call it. But, that's just putting it in a very, very layman terms, because the next question people ask is, okay, so my net banking account is also digital money, right? So what's the difference between the two? So the simple difference is that your net banking or your bank account, which you have, is regulated by the RBI, and its denomination is in the Indian rupee. So that is the currency which you're using. And the philosophy behind the Indian rupee or a cryptocurrency are completely very, very different. Now, the Indian rupee is backed by certain amount of gold, okay, which is what we used to have at the gold standard across countries, and which has now been replaced by monetary policies across the countries, right? So in India, the RBI takes calls on monetary policies, how much money should be printed. And here you have the entire banking system and financial institution system, which kind of gives the trust to the Indian rupee, right? Now, to transact that Indian rupee, I need a bank account. I need a net banking account. I need online connections, things like that. So it is then verified by my bank, and then the transaction happens. Or my credit card, which I pay, any shopping which I do through my credit card is verified by a third party, which is Visa or MasterCard, whatever is the credit card that I'm using. Okay. So here you can see there are a number of intermediaries which are in place. And it's only because of the trust chain of these intermediaries that my INR holds some value. Okay, but now coming to cryptocurrencies. So cryptocurrencies was created as a result of distrust among these financial institutions. So in 2008 or 2009, if you people will remember, you guys would be in school, but if you would, it was one of the last biggest economic bust that happened because of the subprime crisis, right? Now, I'm not going to go on what was subprime crisis, but because of that, banks' authenticity came to be in question. So, it was a lot of banks went under. A lot of there was a run on certain small banks. Okay, so these kind of things happened, and the trust on the banking system, especially in the US, went down drastically. So I'm talking about the US currently because it originated. It didn't originate in the US, but this entire trust was a question mark on the banking system of all countries. So people everywhere were scared that if the banks in the US can go down, if so many banks had to merge just to stay alive, so and they had to be bailed out by the Federal Reserve. So tomorrow it can happen in any country, so you will always see that there are people who are very good in technology, who are at the forefront of technology. They're also a little crazy and genius, So there was a paper which was released on January 9th on 2009. And it was released by a person or a group of people called as Satoshi Nakamoto. And where they explained that, it's time that we have a peer-to-peer digital currency. And this digital currency, the main important aspect was that it would not require any third-party verification. Now, the third-party verification does away with the banking system completely. So how do you have a digital currency now? So this digital currency came to be known as cryptocurrency. So that is how the origins of cryptocurrency came about.
Ma'am, you talked about the trust, like people, we have a history of trust in the financial institutions like banks and the central banks. So after the crisis of 2008, as you said, that most of the people in US, they moved to other, they started trusting other things as well, apart from the financial institutions. Do you see that in other countries as well? The trend is changing. Like the trust of people is moving away from the financial institutions to now new ventures and new firms that can offer them better services and better modes of transaction, or like the trust, basically the trust is shifting. Do you think so?
See, I will say that I guess most of the countries do not have any option as of now, right? So the central banking authorities are definitely very responsible across countries. So yes, there is always a doubt on how strong the banks are. Now, the strength of a bank is determined by how much debt it has, how much bad debts it is carrying. So the loans which it has given out, are they being repaid by their customers, by the borrowers? Because that's a big indicator of how good your economy is. And if your borrowers are unable to pay back to the banks, then banks would have to carry it somewhere. And that's going to basically come back to the retail customers. So, this trust is definitely moving, has, that illusion of safety has shaken for sure. So after 2008 and 2009, when there was such an economic depression and many people did not get jobs, there was a complete breakdown of economies across the world. So, this is in terms of trading. So this was a way you can see a sort of rebellion in terms of currency, and that we can find an alternative banking system where we can trade currencies, where we can buy and sell without actually depending on your traditional currencies. So cryptocurrency originated from there. That was the whole idea.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope this must have cleared a lot of doubts. Ma'am, this is the era of technology. Everything we use today or we are having today is backed by some technology or other. So my next question to you is from the same context, that what is the technology that backs Bitcoin and makes it so popular?
Okay. So I want to clarify a few terms here. So Bitcoin is basically one of the cryptocurrencies. It is the first cryptocurrency which came in existence, and the Bitcoin was created out of the need to basically do away with main currencies, your main international currencies. Now, how do you determine a currency's value? That is the next question. Now, I can just tomorrow create copies of a piece of paper and say this is currency for me from today. No, right? You have to believe in it that it's a currency. 10 other people have to believe in it that it's a currency. Only then it has the required value for all of us. So we'll be willing to exchange it in term for some goods, or buying and purchase, selling things, right? So how do you bring that value to a digital currency? Now, the basis of cryptocurrency is cryptography. Now, cryptography is basically a numerical or a mathematical technique or a science that involves creating codes and writing codes and breaking codes. Now, it just means that this is not a simple science. It's a mathematical study in a field in its own, and using certain principles of cryptography. The coders, the team of Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, nobody knows if he was one person or what it was a team. So these people, they created a software. Okay, they created a line of codes where using the principles of cryptography, and where a unit could be created electronically. Okay, but once that software was run. So once this software was run, that unit was created, and that unit could be transferred from one computer to another. So it becomes a peer-to-peer transaction. So peer-to-peer transaction is person to person on two different computers or two different networks, anything. So they created, now this code basically was written in such a way that it solved the problem of double spending. Now, what is double spending? Now, let's say if I create a currency in an electronic format, okay, let's say I can write few codes, I can create an electronic currency, and again I pass it to you. But how do I know that I'm passing it to you and I'm passing it to somebody else also? So I can, who will verify it? That verification thing can come. I can use that same unit of currency to purchase good from you and from somebody else as well. So who will verify it? How will you? Because it cannot be like we cannot use the same note. It's like using the same 100 rupee note to buy in 10 different places. You can't do that, right? Once it's gone to one shopkeeper, it will stay with him till he spends it. Right now, but in an electronic currency, who will verify that currency has moved from A to B, and it is with B currently? So who will track that? So that tracking mechanism, that is called as a decentralized ledger, which is what the basis of cryptocurrency is, and which we commonly call as blockchain. So blockchain is basically a network of computers. Okay, and each network has this code running. Now, who is running this network? It is coders. It is people who are called as miners. And these are people basically, it can be you or me. If we have very powerful computers at home, we can go, and it's an open source software. So the blockchain for Bitcoin is an open source software. You can actually go, you could at least till few years back, you could go download it and start mining. So we can create a Bitcoin sitting at home. And that is how Bitcoin became very popular over a period of time, because you could create the currency. And the cryptography blockchain, enabled blockchain, it had all the notifications of when the unit was created, when was a currency created, and where was it spent, where was it transacted, and nobody can go back and change that. So that's the best part of it. It's electronically time-stamped, and nobody can go back and change it. So it's like, you do a transaction in net banking, you can see the timestamp and date and everything. So that is exactly how this also works. And we don't need the verification of a bank or any other financial institution to go and tell us, that okay, now you have done this transaction or only this much amount is left. So it just happens naturally in the blockchain. So that is what the entire concept is.
And when we pronounce cryptocurrencies, there's a world currency that comes with crypto, and the first idea that comes into the minds of people is that we already have a lot of currencies in circulation. Like being an Indian, we use Indian rupee. A person in America uses dollar. South Koreans use won. So this is the basic idea that we are already having a lot of currencies, and we are doing the daily transactions with it. And as you said that as you compared both the currencies, like the conventional ones and the cryptocurrencies. So, what do you think? There are some, I would say, shortcomings in cryptocurrencies, which are the qualities of the conventional currency, and the cryptocurrencies lag those qualities. What are these things that the cryptocurrency are still lacking in comparison to the conventional currencies?
Okay, so see, technically, let's see, what does a currency need to have? A currency needs to have value, okay, an agreed value which everyone agrees on. Second is it should be transferable. So it should not be like why did we move from the barter system? Because it was not physically possible to barter a lot of things after a while. So we needed currency as a measure of value. Next is it should be easily fungible. So fungibility means converting it from one form to another. So I can either give it to you in form of a physical note or in the form of an electronic transfer, right? So then because of this fungibility only we can do international transactions, right? Otherwise, if I had to physically deposit my notes every time, then I cannot buy, let's say, a share in the US. Then I'll have to go physically there, deposit the dollar amount, and then only I can get a share certificate. So, these three things are there. The next thing is trust. So trust issues, again, I would say just the way we trust our currencies, our conventional currencies, cryptocurrency as a software or as a technology has proven that there is no trust issue, apart from the fact that the people who are actually floating it. So I think the biggest issue which cryptocurrencies have been facing is our scamsters, So technology per se is nothing wrong. It is far superior to any other, currency system in the world. The problem is now, again, where human intervention comes in, the distrust starts building up. People use it for their own means. So now we must have heard a lot about, okay, I'll tell you some interesting things. So in 2009 or 10, the United States, FBI, so the agency there, FBI, they burst upon a scam website called as, it was not scam, actually, let's call it a website of illegal activities called as Silk Road. Okay, so it's a very, very famous case study of why cryptocurrencies gained that bad name. So Silk Road actually was a marketplace for all kinds of services and activities, for selling drugs, for selling weapons, for selling sex trade. Then even you could kind of hire someone to kill. It was that kind of a website, and people were using transactions. They were paying for transactions using Bitcoin. So that's the reason why this website particularly earned a bad, why Bitcoin earned a bad name, because of this website. So Bitcoin is not bad. It's the same way as saying a knife is bad or a gun is bad. A gun is not bad. It's, if a soldier has it, it is used for defending purposes. But if a terrorist has it, he is using it for his own personal or selfish goals. So it's the same thing. The cryptocurrency technology is very foolproof, but the people who float these currencies or the exchanges which come up. So many, I'm sure our viewers and readers would know and would have read about a lot of scams involving cryptocurrency exchanges. So, where complete exchanges have just shut down and run away with people's money. and they have been like major level hackings would not have been possible without the inclusion of the owner of the exchange. So such instances have happened, and even in advanced countries like Japan and the US, such exchanges such so we can say that, yeah, because they are not regulated that much, so as of now, because there is no central authority which is willing to take the onus of regulating them, it's a very tricky area right now. So if the central banks take over regulating cryptocurrencies, all exchanges in that country will come under RBI or the central authority. So that would mean a lot of law creation, lot of rules and regulations will come in place. So the bad part, yes, you can say the limitation is the trust issue for as a user. Coming back to your question, that trust issue in terms of usability is yet to come in.
Thank you, ma'am. It generally happens with me, and not only with me, but anyone who is enthusiastic about the cryptocurrencies. That whenever I tell someone that I'm reading about cryptocurrencies, they make a very wild guess that, are you reading about Bitcoin? And for most of the people today, Bitcoin is equal to cryptocurrency, and cryptocurrency is equal to Bitcoin. And it is actually kind of true, because Bitcoin is popular, and it is not only popular, it has one of the highest values in the market as well, in the crypto market. So what do you think, what makes Bitcoin the most popular cryptocurrency in the world today, even after having so many other cryptocurrencies right now?
Okay, so Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency in the world. Second thing is it has a limited capacity of 21 million coins. Only 21 million coins will be minted throughout its lifetime. And while there have been certain forks, is what they call it, FORK. So they have distributed into, they have diverted a few of the currencies into Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold. They have come out of Bitcoin. They were not separate currencies. They have come out of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin's, I guess the aura of the name, being the first mover, that of course the value has gone up, and the fact that so many people want to hold it. There is no reason for the value of Bitcoin going, but there are many other cryptocurrencies, which are backed by proper businesses. So we'll look at that later maybe. But Bitcoin per se does not have any business model behind it. The only thing which happens in Bitcoin's value is the sentiment movement. So because many people want to, when I started investing in cryptocurrencies, obviously I started with Bitcoin, So I will want to hold a piece of this gold, which will not be possible to purchase after a few years. So because it has a limited supply and it is growing in value, so after a point it might become a very good store of value. That's the assumption under which people are purchasing it. That's why it has become the costliest, and it will continue to remain so till people believe in it. See, as I said, it's all a matter of if you and I agree that okay, this thing has value. Tomorrow, if let's say Ethereum, which is the next most popular and the most expensive cryptocurrency, now that actually has use cases. Ethereum's technology is a bit different. Its blockchain is a bit different. It tried to create, overcome many limitations from technology point of view, which the original blockchain had. So, it has a lot of companies which work on Ethereum now. So it has a proper business model behind it, which Bitcoin does not have as of now.
Ma'am, as we saw the entire episode of what happened with Tesla, first, Elon Musk announced that they have bought billions of worth of cryptocurrencies. Especially Bitcoin. Then in the month of May, all of a sudden Tesla announced that they are no more dealing with, Tesla won't deal in cryptocurrency, and it won't use Bitcoin as a mode of transaction for its cars. And we saw major dip in the values of, it is believed that this is the main reason why it happened on 20th May. So keeping in mind a tweet by one person or a decision by one person has affected the value of cryptocurrencies this much. So what in your views, what will happen if cryptocurrencies will be used as a mode of transactions in the economy? So what will be the effects of it in the economy if it could be used as a regular mode of transaction?
Okay, so I think we'll have to kind of distinguish between mode of transaction and mode of value, store of value.
Okay.
So the next thing to see is that can we really look at cryptocurrencies as a day-to-day currency? My guess is no. It can never replace your conventional currencies as a mode of transaction, simply because the technology is limited right now. And secondly, as you rightly pointed out, that regulating it will be very difficult. And because of one person's sentiment, who is a very important person in an industry, who has possibly garnered the majority chunk of Bitcoin up to a point. So tomorrow, if out of this 21 million Bitcoins, let's say if I end up buying 15 million Bitcoins, okay, so then I will run the policy for Bitcoin, right? And I can create cartels. If I am a very influential person, I can create different cartels and keep them under my control, right, to purchase Bitcoins. So that can be a major limitation in terms of regulating and making it a day-to-day transaction currency. So that's why I don't think it will ever replace your conventional currencies for transaction, but it is a great store of value. So I think we don't really need to worry about that aspect, because central banks will never let that happen. And secondly, I think the important thing right now is to ensure that in various countries, cryptocurrencies do not become a storehouse for black money. So I think central banks are more worried about that right now, because that's why they have stopped the banking transactions. But they had stopped, although you can buy them, it's not stopped completely through various exchanges. That is how transaction is happening. But they will still keep a very strong scrutiny of these accounts and whatever modes of transactions you're using. So the idea is that there should not be a parallel economy developing of cryptocurrencies, because then it will actually, if it goes unregulated, then black money will start flowing into it, and it will become a safe haven for storing your black money, which is what your income tax departments and your central banks are basically after. They want to find ways to bring out the black money. They do not want to encourage areas which will help them hide it. So I think that is what the main focus right now is.
As ma'am, you mentioned the store of value. So can you explain us very briefly what is store of value?
Okay, so simply put, as I was saying, we both have to agree that a certain specific piece of paper has an X amount of value. So let's say if I have a 100 rupee note, why do we both agree that it's a 100 rupee note? You can say that it's a 50 rupee note. I can say, no, it's a 100 rupee note. But no, a third party, which is the Central Banking Authority, has verified and has, demarcated it as a 100 rupee value, 100 units of a currency are in that one piece of paper. So I can buy and sell goods worth 100 rupee using that piece of paper, right? So that is the store of value. Does it hold? It should not happen that today it is equal to 100 rupee, tomorrow its value has gone to 50 rupees, So that guarantee is being taken by the RBI or the central bank of any country. So that's why you will always see, that you have the RBI governor's signature and there's a certain pledge written on it that I hereby announce that this is the value of store, of this particular currency. And this store of value is basically defined for each currency, even in cryptocurrencies. And of course, by exchange and by marketplace exchanges, that fluctuates on a daily basis.
Ma'am, there was a lot of talk in the market, especially by the big institutions and the reputed people, that cryptocurrencies are becoming more like gold. Like people invest in gold, cryptocurrencies are becoming like that. Do you think that we can compare gold and cryptocurrencies as an investment? We can keep them on the same level?
I think yes. Not all cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin, yes. So, in one of our previous questions, when I was explaining to you why Bitcoin's value has gone up, it's simply because it has a limited supply, and tomorrow that supply is going to get exhausted. And so if I want to purchase it and keep it, I'm not going to use it at all. I'm not going to, use it to buy a Tesla tomorrow or buy anything, so because its value is going up. So gold per se, why has the value of gold gone up? If you think about it that way. So gold, let's say even 20 years back or 15 years back, wasn't that expensive. It was just a metal to be used to create jewelry for the retail clients, for retail customers, and for industrial purposes. It was used in fabrication and integrated circuits and some applications like that. But over the last 10-15 years, the use of gold has gone up simply because we are using more mobile phones, we are using more telecommunications, which utilizes a bit of gold lining in chips and all those kind of sets which are manufactured. So because mobile usage has gone up, laptops and electronics are much more in number, so the use of gold has increased. So the value of gold has increased, the supply and demand thing. But the number of gold reserves which have been discovered has not increased that much, right? So because that mining has not increased that much, so the value of your gold has increased. So the same thing will happen for Bitcoin as well. As I was saying that the supply is limited, and it will keep going up as long as cryptocurrencies are able to survive. So yes, I think it is a good store of value, and I think there have been even now interests from various investment banks in the US, like Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan.
Yes.
Now they have floated their own units for managing cryptocurrencies, or even funds for investing in cryptocurrencies. So yes, we can look at it very safely. We can say that there will be a store of value.
Ma'am, do you think it is possible to make predictions about the rise and falls of values of cryptocurrencies?
I don't think it's very accurate to start off with, because it has to be based on certain fundamentals. First thing. Now tomorrow I cannot predict the value of Bitcoin, but maybe I can start looking at the value of what is driving the price of Ethereum. Okay. Now, as I said, there has to be a business model behind each of these currencies. So that's why they are not your typical conventional currencies, because there has to be a business model behind it. Now, Bitcoin is based on sentiment. We all know that. And Ethereum, or many other cryptocurrencies which are coming up now, are based on specific projects, blockchain projects. So as these blockchain projects earn money, they have actual client use, people and companies start employing these in their day-to-day operations. It will work like a normal company stock. So each cryptocurrency should not be looked at actually like a currency. It should be looked at like a company stock. You can call it that. So the value of this cryptocurrency will move up and down on a daily basis based on the announcements by these companies, by their projects, by the number of revenue, things like that, all those fundamentals. So that's why, yes, over a period of time, these fundamentals will get established, they will get strong, and there will be a way, although there is a lot of technical analysis already happening, but it is difficult to do a certain amount of fundamental analysis on all cryptocurrencies. So technical analysis, because it's based on the price movement, and we have, let's say, a 2008 or 9 onwards history of price movements. So we are able to do some technical analysis, but fundamental analysis is yet to be established for cryptocurrencies.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I had a lot of doubts, and I think that this conversation for me, it's very focused today, and it was such a great experience for us. Like, we all are studying about cryptocurrencies right now, and talking to an expert like you from the same field and gaining this much of knowledge in this session is literally We are very fortunate for this and
that's
thankful to you that you came to our channel and became a part of this. Thank you so much. And we are very glad to have you here now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
ma'am.
for considering me, and yes, look forward to more sessions. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you for being with us and bearing us till the end of the video. This is just one part of the series, and we'll come up with the most advanced aspects of the cryptocurrencies in the next video as well. We hope that you will be a part of that video as well. Thank you for being with us and have a nice day. And yes, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Please share us with your friends to help us grow. Thank you so much.